LinkedIn, we are going to fire up your Monday.
With Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.
All right, LinkedIn, you know what it is. It's Monday. We're going to get you fired up this Monday for the rest of your week. I want you to like, I want you to share, I want you to shout out your city and state. I want you to hit those thumbs up, clappy emojis, support hearts, insightful, curious. We want you to hit all of those buttons. We're really excited to get into this with you. And I am going to bring you the Master Connector himself, Steve Spiro. Steve Spiro is a martial arts black belt and a master networker. He's moved from being a shy, introverted kid to the master connector he is today. Steve Spiro began his business career by starting an advertising company in NYC. He had an incredibly fulfilling career and experience in advertising and marketing, but eventually pivoted to the technology industry. Today, he is a certified customer communications consultant with Quadient, where he consults and mentors companies to help them find more effective ways to connect with their customers. Steve Spiro believes in the power of mentorship, growing oneself through self-development, and continuing to create meaningful connections through building a large network. Welcome to the stage, the Master Connector himself, Mr. Steve Spiro.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Cameron, being the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and doing all the magic you do here. So, hey, folks, it's Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you here live and direct. Cameron and I really appreciate you tuning in. We're here every Monday at 1 p.m. We come at you with engaging content on how you too can be a master connector. During this Master Connection series, each week our goal is to gather subject matter experts to impart their wisdom on us. Welcome to the show. I'm very blessed to have my co-host, Cameron Toth. Cameron is the host and founder of Biz Dev Live. Cameron founded Toth Event Staffing in 2011. Toth Event Staffing is a hospitality company providing staff to caterers, cafeterias, and catering departments in Westchester, New York, and New York City. Biz Dev Live was founded in 2020 with interviews back up now. It's Biz Dev Live takes Cameron's entrepreneurship experience and combines it with his passion for helping young people and business-minded professionals. Cameron Toth's mission in life is increasing access to education and opportunity for all people. So bring back to the stage, my man, the Wizard of Oz behind the stage, Mr. Cameron Toth.
Steve, thank you so much. I just want to shout out some of our audience here. We got Jen Sugarmeyer checking in from Dallas, Texas. If you have not posted in the chat right now where you're viewing in from, even if we've heard from you before, this is the power of the show. LinkedIn, networking in the comments. Let us know where you're viewing from. This lets everybody else know where you're viewing from. I'm always amazed. We have people tuning in from so many different places, different countries, different parts of the country. We love you. Please let us know where you're viewing from. Melody Bellevue checking in from Massachusetts. I was actually born in the state of Massachusetts in Boston. Thanks for checking in, Melody. Leslie, howdy from Texas. Another person from Texas. Thank you for checking in. Steve is saying, Leslie, we're glad that you're here. Rachel Austin checking in from Connecticut. Keep letting us know in the comments. We will shout you out. I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for being here, being in the comments. You make this show wonderful. You make this show amazing. And I am so excited to bring you our special guests. I'm going to start introducing them. I'm going to start with Hallie Avolio here. All right. So Hallie Avolio is the founder and president of Sassy Healthy Fit. After 20 years in business-to-business sales, both in the corporate and small business markets, Hallie realized that a real passion is to motivate and inspire other humans to live their best lives and show up as their most authentic selves. Hallie empowers you to live your best life through a variety of methods, including manifestation, core values, neurolinguistic programming, mindfulness, meditation, breath work, etc., affirmations, gratitude, self-love, self-care, and simple, sustainable, and fun daily rituals. You can connect further with Hallie through her website, sassyhealthy.fit. Welcome to the show, the amazing, the healthy Hallie Avolio. Thanks for being here. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that welcome. I'm so honored to be here. It is such a pleasure to be surrounded by such amazing humans, both of our hosts today and the panelists. Oh my gosh. I feel absolutely honored and incredible to be here and to speak about self-compassion, one of my most favorite topics. I can't wait to dive in. So thank you for having me.
I love it. All right. We're going to fly right on over to Heather Vasey. Heather Vasey is a self-esteem and empowerment coach. Heather Vasey clients improve their perception of their own abilities and self-worth. Please welcome to the show, Miss Heather Vasey. Please say hello to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really honored to be here, and I really look forward to diving deep into the topic of self-compassion.
Thank you. We're going to fly right on over to Mariah Edgington. Mariah, retired nurse, critical care, EMT, paramedic, neonatal, pediatric, transport flights nurse, holistic therapist. She provides Reiki, aromatherapy, guided meditation, relaxation techniques to nursing staff, patients, and family. On the personal side, she's married with 3 daughters and 6 grandchildren. She's an author. She's a content creator. She's an influencer. She's a public speaker and a motivator. Spanish speaker. Que bueno. Enjoys cooking using whole food, plant-based nutrition. Please welcome to the stage the amazing Mariah Edgington.
Cameron, thank you so much. And thank you, Steve. And I really look forward to this opportunity to be with our panelists here and to share information about compassion because I'm passionate about it. So thank you so much. I look forward to this talk.
Love it, Mariah. All right, we're going to fly right on over to Whitney Kobran. Whitney is a love coach with a background in psychology and matchmaking who helps women to love themselves and attract lasting love. Her holistic approach incorporates mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical healing, along with loads of step-by-step practical dating advice. Her website is hearthunterslovecoaching.com. Today, she's going to talk about the most important relationship in everyone's life, your relationship with yourself. Very apropos. Thank you to the amazing Whitney Kobran. Please welcome. Say hello to everybody. Just going to ask you.
Thank you so much, Cameron and Steve, for allowing me to be here as a panelist. I love this topic. I love talking about self-compassion and self-love as it is the foundation of all relationships in our life. And if you go to whitneykobran.com, I have a free guide all about self-compassion. So anyone who's interested in learning more, please check that out.
Love it. Thank you, Whitney. All right. So everybody, we're going to jump right into today's topic. Going to have us start off with Steve, as always. What does self-compassion mean to you? Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I appreciate it. And what an incredible group of panelists. I really want to hear from them versus what I have to say. But I will say this. For many years, I've been extremely hard on myself. And it wasn't until very recently where I finally was able to, have some self-compassion and be able to be not so hard on myself. Some of you guys know I was infected with COVID. I got tested on 8/26, and it was a really rough 2 weeks. And I'm an on-the-go guy. I love to be productive. I never claimed to be busy, but I love being productive. And for 2.5 weeks, I was not. And I could have been super hard on myself, but I'm like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to be all right, to have some downtime. And I actually looked at it and found the good side of the whole situation. So Yeah, I'm just curious what everyone else is going to share about self-compassion. But to me, it's not being hard on yourself, loving yourself for who you are. I was in such a tough place where I always looked at people that were better. They seemed better than me. And it was a tough road to hoe. But I finally got to a place where, you know what, I'm okay. I did a silent meditation. I think it was like 4 days, and it was an amazing experience. And after about a day and a half, they pull you in to kind of see what you're thinking on a one-on-one basis. And that was the revelation after about a day and a half. I was like, I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay, you know, and that was a place that I was very, very blessed to get to, because for many years I was very self-critical. So anyway, again, appreciate the panelists here. Cameron, thanks for doing all the things you do, and I'll pass it back to you.
So I know Hallie wants to jump right in. I just want to encourage everybody, keep posting where you're viewing from. We love to see that. We got a lot of people checking in. I just want to make sure I shout out all of our different folks. I know Richard Cuzio's checking in. He's shouting out Wendy. We got David Hansen. Let me know, David, where are you viewing from? Let us know. We got Mama Spiro checking in from Poughkeepsie. We got Brian Edgington in the house. Mariah, I have a feeling you know this guy somehow, some way. And we got Leslie checking in, shouting out Mariah. We got so many people. Oh, I love seeing all the comments. Thank you guys so much for doing what you do, getting in there, and make sure you're talking to each other. We love to see that. All right, so I'm going to keep things going here. Hallie, get in here. Tell us, what does self-compassion mean to you?
First of all, I didn't know, Steve, that you had COVID. So I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better and that you took that opportunity to have some self-reflection time. That's really powerful. And in fact, I would argue that that is a wonderful example of how I see self-compassion. A lot of the challenge that I've personally experienced and I run into with my clients is that we're so very hard on ourselves at every level. And we hold ourselves to extremely high standards, and we have loads of expectations that come from a variety of sources, whether it's inner child or past experiences professionally or past relationships or a combination of all of the above. But when we're talking about self-compassion, it comes down to acknowledging who you are at your core and getting comfortable with who you are authentically. And the word authentic, I feel like it gets tossed around a lot, almost in a flippant way. But I really challenge that in the sense that when you are being your authentic self, how can you give yourself credit for all the parts of you, the good, the bad, the misguided, the chaotic, the loving, the fun, all of the parts of you, because we are all truly made up of many, many, many parts. And that's what makes us dynamic, whole beings. And when you can accept yourself for who you are in all of those ways, then you are truly expressing self-compassion. And it comes down to one of the most powerful and yet simple affirmations, which is, I am. I am. And when you can accept yourself as I am, then you can truly be in a space of self-compassion.
You're muted, sir.
I was telling the ladies just before we jumped on, I was going to do it at least once. Hopefully I got it out of my system. All right. So,
we got compassion for you, Cameron. It's all good.
Thank you very much. So we got lots more people jumping in. We got some folks from India checking in. Just want to shout folks out. And we were talking about I am statements. And, you know, I think it's always interesting, Steve. We get advice, and like everything in life, things is complicated, right? So there's a place to say I am, and it makes sense. And there's other places where you shouldn't. And so if you're tracking this, you're watching this from week to week, you're going to hear that. And I think it can be difficult because it's not just a binary kind of thing in the world. You got to look at when's the appropriate time to do this and that. And it's really important. And I love hearing that, because it makes you be very purposeful and intentional about what you do, where you do it, how you do it. Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you. To me, self-compassion really boils down to getting to be your own good friend. We're so good, as Hallie mentioned, we're very good at being very judgmental of our own selves. And I think when you can really show more kindness towards yourself, more empathy, have a greater understanding of who you are at your core, then you can work your way out from there. And I believe that whatever we fill ourselves up with is then what we have to offer to others. So we want to be always mindful of our self-talk and mindful of what we put into our space. It's deeper than what we feed our bodies. It's also about what we feed our minds and what we feed our souls.
Thanks. I was typing in chat trying to find out who wants to jump in, Mariah or Whitney next on this. So you'll have to go to hands here for me if you want to jump in.
Well,
go ahead, Mariah.
I want to tell you that you gave me an insight here today, Cameron, because when you said you silenced yourself, that made me stop and think, because following right after the I am, oftentimes we do silence ourselves, and not always in a good way. So I think knowing that that's going to happen, and you mentioned that before, but you gave yourself the grace and the compassion to be okay with what is and what happened. And in that way, you were able to switch it around in your brain. So instead of defaulting, and this is something that I had to work through myself, and I know a lot of people do, we tend to say, oh, I can't believe you dropped that. What happened? On and on. But when we can stop ourselves and look at that and say, yeah, that happened, and it's okay. I am enough. I am more than enough. And still own our own value by exactly, Hallie. It's so true, because when we look at what we tell ourselves, I often tell people, you wouldn't say that to your 80-year-old grandma, would you? Why are you doing it to yourself? Because you're the only one who controls what goes on between here and here. And when we can start with that compassion of our own selves and really begin to own that we can love ourselves, and that's not just okay, that's more than okay. So way to go, Cameron. You did it. You just said, hey, it's okay. And
I find that works really well in parenting too, for everybody that's got children and are dealing with that. Getting that message across to children at a very young age, you control you.
Yep.
You know, if you're upset right now, it's got to be you, self-soothing. And so getting that message, because a lot of us as adults, we start getting upset and start feeling anxiety, and we think somehow it's out of our control. It's completely out of our control.
I can share one more thing. Recently, I had an opportunity to look at that where I was angry, but it wasn't really at anybody else. It was because I was doing a deep dive and really digging into some feelings. And that brought that up. And so I had to step back and say, okay, let's weed this out. In the end, I ended up knowing that I'm okay, and that's how you work through feelings. So it was compassionate to myself, and to look at that and say, it's okay. And I am. So thanks, Hallie. I love that.
Love it. And I think you have a fan here, Mariah. Brian
No, he's my bestie. It's true.
Whitney, did you want to jump in?
Yes, everything that everyone said is so valuable and so true. I agree with it. And I want to add that something else that self-compassion means to me is it's the antidote to stress. We live in a world where we are bombarded with stress. We have an artificial amount of stress from all directions. And what stress does is it makes us go into fight, flight, or flee response. And what self-compassion does is it allows us to counteract those effects. So instead of going into fight, we practice kindness. Instead of wanting to freeze up and not face things or not acknowledge things, we practice mindfulness and awareness. And instead of the desire to flee and run away, we stay with it. We practice common humanity. We recognize that we're only human, that we have humans that we can connect with, and people that can support us through these difficult emotions or hard times or whatever it is that we're going through that's causing this stress.
I love it. I want to really get this question up from Leslie. I'm so appreciative of our audience's questions. So anybody that has questions on self-compassion, any of the stuff that's coming up, please, if you have that question, I guarantee you somebody else in the audience has that question as well. And you are helping them by helping yourself and putting that question in the chat for us. So it gives us the opportunity to respond to it and really deep dive into it. And while we have some experts on the stage, you in the audience are an expert in something, probably many things as well. And so your feedback, we're able to get to help people and touch so many different people's lives today because of your help in the chat and comments. So feel free to respond, get those conversations going. Leslie Martinez says, is it possible to convince someone that they are worthy of self-care? Does anyone want to jump in on that right away?
I could take it. Just to kick things off a little bit. I think number one, I think there's sort of two parts to this question. Number one, are they worthy? And then the self-care part. I think they're kind of two related but different thoughts. I think worthiness needs to come from within. However, what we can do is uplift and encourage and show people their value and by the words we use for them, right? We've seen a lot of people grow up sometimes, and we don't have kids, but I've seen a lot of kids grow up from the same household and how different each of them can be. And many times it's because of the words they heard and how they were programmed, maybe not in the house, but maybe it was at school, maybe it was at the sphere of influence that they're around. So words are important. I think somebody said it earlier when we were starting this conversation. You could uplift, you can encourage, and you could, through your words, show that they're worthy. Whether they're going to embrace it or not is another question. I'm a big believer in leadership. I love the author John Maxwell, and he teaches that leadership is spelled EXAMPLE, right? Which is example. It's what you do, and so you can help people through your example, and perhaps you speak about how you're in a much better place. And a lot of that has to do with your self-care. And you could talk about what it's meant to you. Because I think what I found is that convincing people is a really a hard thing. And so we could show them, we could do it ourselves. They got to want to change. They got to want to feel different about themselves. And I don't think it's on us to really make that happen. So that's my perspective.
I think that's great, Steve. And I love the example. That is perfect because that's where I was going with this as well. I've found that once I really took my knowing a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper, the more I filled my own cup, the more I was able to give out. And just by example, because we've all gone through growth. When we were kids, as young adults, as we meander through life, we find that it's not always easy and it really does get messy. And I've been involved in personal messy and had to kind of sort through that. And that is very fulfilling when you're able to have people say, well, I've seen you go through that. And now I see that you're filling your own cup and you're giving it back. So to answer your question, Leslie, super good question. But I have found that through my own personal self-care and others witnessing it, that is how that led them. I could have pushed and pulled and tugged and everything to get them where I wanted them to be, but it was not until they saw it in me. Great question.
Love that. Anybody else want to jump in?
I would love to say something if I can.
Go ahead, Hallie.
Thank you. And I appreciate and agree with what Steve and Mariah already said. So I just wanted to throw out, and actually Mariah and I had this conversation last week, which is a definition of self-care. We might need to reframe that. So I feel like a lot of times self-care is kind of tossed around as something that's a nice to have, or it's something luxurious that you do, whether it's going and taking a walk or having a bubble bath or doing some retail therapy or something that feels like a break, luxury, etc. for yourself. But what I want to offer about self-care is that for me, self-care has to do with being in alignment with what makes you feel whole and centered. And I like to talk about that in relation to our core values. And I have a core values exercise that I work with all of my clients to really nail down what are the core values that you get into alignment with. But when you understand what your core values are, then you understand that self-care is an act that happens every single day by making sure that you're in alignment. And a simple example of that is self-care can be setting a boundary and saying no to an activity or to a person that is not fulfilling you and getting you into alignment. Self-care could also look like doing the dishes so that you have a sense of peace and calm in your home, as opposed to chaos and clutter that you see in your kitchen when you see your dishes around. Self-care could look like taking care of your bills and your personal accounting so that you know where your finances stand and that you can honor your desire for wealth and balance in regards to your personal finances. So when it comes to self-care, I don't believe that you can convince anybody of anything truly. I think leading by example is always the best way. And when it comes to self-care, if we can start to shift our expectation of what that looks like into getting into alignment with who we are at our core, I think that self-care becomes much more of something that you do regularly, as opposed to a nice to have or something that you really have to plan ahead for or think out.
I love that. And our next question is, why is self-compassion so vital? And I think you really laid into that, right, Hallie? You laying out that blueprint, why it's really vital that we do this. But as we're talking about why it's so vital, let's talk about, I loved, washing dishes is a great example of something that, if clutter builds up, that's not going to help with anxiety, and it's definitely not going to help with self-care. But also washing the dishes can be a calming activity. So for all my men out there who are thinking, oh, I don't want to deal with the dishes and that's somebody else's responsibility, one of the ways that I sort of help unwind and decompress at the end of the day is helping my wife out with dishes. Happy wife, happy life. It helps with that, right? And it also is a moment for me to not think about work stuff and really decompress and unwind. And so I'm taking care of the family. I'm taking care of myself in that moment and self-care. And so those kind of things become vital for maintaining a loving relationship, but also with others, but also with yourself. I love that. So who else wants to jump in here about why self-compassion is so vital, and some of the different ways that you do it personally for yourself, so we can give the audience some great examples to sort of vibe off of. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, Cameron, I'll take that question.
Go ahead, Whitney.
I find that one of the reasons that self-compassion is so important and vital for us is that we have a lot of these ideas wrong. We have this idea that we have to be hard on ourselves. We have this idea that we have to criticize and judge ourselves to be able to push ourselves beyond our limits or push ourselves to do better. And that's just not the case. Studies after study have shown that self-criticism actually hurts you, because when you are disappointed, when you are down, angry, upset, sad, it's like kicking yourself when you're down. And if you've ever had a really good friend or mentor or family member who is really supportive and encouraging, you notice that that's much better at motivating you than the friend that says, yeah, you're a loser and you're ugly and you are a failure. But unfortunately, that's what we tend to do to ourselves. As soon as we have a disappointment or feel bad, we start going into all this negative self-talk, this negative dialogue. And it actually brings us down a downward spiral. And this is one of the reasons why many people fall into depression, because one disappointment leads to a critical thought, which then leads to a critical emotion, which then just brings them down and down and down. So it's so vital and important to break into that cycle and lift yourself up, to have compassion, to say, I made a mistake. I'm only human. It's okay. It's all going to work out in the end. I can fix this. It's going to be all right. Whatever it takes to soothe yourself, to have these soothing words, one thing that I teach is soothing touch. It might sound a little corny and cheesy, but it really does work to give yourself a hug, to pat yourself, to just stroke your hair, your cheek, your arm, just pat yourself on the back. I know it sounds cheesy, but really try it sometime, and it can really help with soothing you out of that negative space or that disappointment or even that anger and aggression.
I love that. And there's a reason that I was looking for like visuals to represent this show today, self-compassion, and all the visuals that sort of made sense were giving yourself a hug. And it's not something that we often do, but it's something that we can practice once in a while. Physical touch is such a big thing, and we can actually physically take a moment to hug ourselves and give us some sort of self-compassion, right? I see some nods along with that, right? Steve, I know you wanted to jump in, and then ladies, please let me know who wants to go in. Also, we have some questions from the audience. I posted Braden's question in the private chat there, so please let me know who wants to jump in on that, because I want to make sure we get his question answered. Where does personal development fall into the I am statement? Many times the process of developing comes with failure and success. It's hard to separate sometimes. Any tips? Steve, jump in here on the why is self-compassion so vital and some of the practices. And Elizabeth, Steve's wife, letting me know that I have one more thing in common with Steve. Apparently Steve does the dishes as well.
Absolutely. And I enjoy it. It's actually very therapeutic. I like doing it. And I agree with her. I forget who said it. One of the ladies mentioned how you kind of feel that there's a sense of order, and I like doing it in the morning. I have an audiobook playing while I'm it's one of my morning routines, the part of the routine. But yeah, why self-compassion is vital. To me, when the opposite side, when you're self-critical, it's like you need a rotor-rooter. It clogs you. It like blocks you, and when you know that you're focusing on the negative and your faults and your issues, it just makes you bound up, and when you're able to be self-compassionate and just be okay with yourself, right? And know that, we're all imperfect people. And, it's funny because I heard this said, and, I used to be, I alluded to it earlier in this conversation, how I was always into the blame game. And, I'd always look at my faults and my weaknesses, and I would look at some other people and I'm like, wow, they're amazing. And I would be intimidated and just, I would have even a tough time speaking to them because I was so intimidated. And one of my mentors said this a while ago. He said, why don't you do this? Imagine if you took your biggest challenge and you threw it into a pile, and there's a bunch of people and everyone threw that challenge into the pile. And you had to randomly grab from that challenge back for the pile what somebody's challenge, and you're probably going to want your challenge back. And so, we don't know when we see other people, we don't know what their challenges are. We don't know what their struggles are. And a lot of times we just see what we see on the outside. Social media has made things even worse because, everyone shows, the 2 minutes, 2% of their, or maybe not even 2%, maybe it's less than 0.5% of how cool their life is. And we all think that's their life, but it really isn't. It's just a very small piece of it. So why self-compassion is important and vital? It's because it allows us the ability to be more productive. When we're self-critical, we're bound up. We don't want to make mistakes. We're stifled. I used to be around a group of people where I felt like if I was going to say anything, someone was going to criticize me again. You guys, if some who know my background, know I was picked on and bullied and learning disabled. So it was criticism. Criticism was a big part of my upbringing. And so I was always afraid to make a mistake or to look bad to other people until I really had a revelation that everyone has their challenges. And so anyway, so I think it opens you up to be able to be more productive and feel good about you. And when you feel good about you, you do more. When you're feeling bad about you, you tend to shut down and not do a lot.
I love it. I want to shout out Susan's comment here. Always believe it could be worse, which I think is absolutely alluding to, somebody's always got a worse challenge than you. I think that's almost always true. And so looking on the bright side of things and being thankful and practicing gratitude is a great way to break out of any kind of malaise. Mariah, I know you want to jump in on Braden's question. I just want to shout out a few folks from the audience. Melody, who's definitely commenting, thank you. Braden commenting and questionings, thank you. Philip Reed, shouting out Whitney there. Thanks for being on the show with us today. David Hansen, great comment here. Apart from basic survival needs, eating, sleeping, I consider meditation to be my most important self-care practice. Love that comment. Melody here with the dishes and music playlist. And I love this question, and I hope audience members can answer this as well, because I think this has been a lot in the news, and so there's lots of examples of this. But after the past 19 plus months, do you think that there has been a shift in how businesses think about their employees' self-care? We have big changing dynamic, people wanting some people to come back into the office, a whole new dynamic of so many people more working from home. I was reading an article about the Empire State Building and lots of companies making that decision to let so many more people, have flex days and work many days from home. Shout out to Val Torres checking in the chat. Thanks everybody. And my man, Richard Cusio, I spell it as Excelsior. Self-care. Here we go. All right. We're going to keep this going. Go ahead, Mariah.
Well, we're looking at Brandon's question here, and it is a very valid question, because we do talk about the I am, and whatever follows I am follows you. And what we mean when we say something like that, it means, oh, I am stupid. Oh, really? That's what you think. And this is to Steve's point, because a lot of us grew up in a time, and for me, it looked a little bit different, because though I didn't know it at the time, I have dyslexia. And so I didn't read until I was in 3rd grade. And so that followed me forever until I learned that it's okay. We all have things. And Brendan asked about failures and successes. And it's true, through self-development, we take and harvest the gems from both of those situations. And that's where the growth comes in. That's where personal development comes in. Once we realize that we all have these challenges in our life, some might look different, and some we may never know about what goes on behind their closed doors of their homes. So if we're able to understand that, yes, we all have challenges, we have successes, and we have failures. But whatever follows I am follows you. So make sure it's good. I am amazing. I'm a great reader. and I have come quite a ways in my life. And I know that you have too. And that's the neat part, is we're all a work in progress to make good out of our lives and support others.
I love that. And I think so many people, especially now, are talking about the power of that self affirmation, right? The idea that you are putting what you want yourself to be out in the world, right? Making sure that, yeah. Philip Reed says, what do you say to a person that considers self-compassion giving themselves a pass from exercising self-discipline? So I think we've all met the person that says, I'm taking care of me. That's why I'm eating this tub of ice cream, right? There's some boundaries or some limits to what taking care of yourself really is. There's healthy taking care of yourself, and then there's giving yourself a pass or an excuse, right? I know Whitney had her hand up. Go ahead, Whitney.
Yes, to expand on what you're saying, I find it similar to parenting. You might think that you have to be really hard on yourself and that you have to have really tight restrictions, or else you'll just let yourself do anything you want. But if you think about a good parent, which is what we all need to be to ourselves, a good parent doesn't allow their child to lay in bed and eat cookies all day. Just like you shouldn't allow yourself to just do whatever you want and be lazy and get away with everything. But you also are not helping yourself by criticizing and berating yourself and yelling at yourself and putting yourself down when you don't do what you should. So if you imagine yourself like a good parent and you say, okay, you're not going to lay in bed and eat cookies all day. You're going to eat your vegetables first, and you're going to take care of yourself because you know that you need nutrition. And again, I go back to the studies. The studies show that this form of self-compassionate motivation does work. It does work to motivate yourself. And people who practice self-compassion regularly are actually more capable and more able to achieve their goals than people who constantly berate themselves and have negative self-talk and criticize and fall into that pattern.
I love it. And Steve, I know, is going to jump in on this. And I'll just say, you know, if you're running and you feel thirsty, it doesn't help not to drink.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And great point, Whitney. I'm going to take a different spin on it. I'm reading the question slightly different. It's, what do you say to a person that considers self-compassion, giving themselves a pass from exercising self-discipline? And I think I kind of alluded to this earlier in that, you know, I used to be the very critical guy. I think because I was critical with myself, I felt like I had the right to be critical with other people and judgmental. I was very judgmental of myself. I was judgmental of other people. And I've learned over time through a lot of self-reflection and a lot of mentorship and a lot of reading that it's really hard to change people. And so what would I say? Well, first, I'm going to pick my time. I'm going to be very, very specific on when I might say it. If they come to me and they really, really want to know my opinion on maybe why their life isn't moving in the right direction, I might ask them some questions. I might say, so let me ask you a question. You know, what's your thoughts on, you know, sort of your habits and the discipline in your life? And, you know, maybe I might ask those questions. But before I do any of that, I really need to know that they really want to know what I know. Because most of the time, people don't want to know what we know. You know, unless you're a professional and people coming to you because you're a coach or you're a therapist and they're paying you to want to know what you know. And they still more than likely don't want to know what you know. So I find it hard to really to be effective in giving that person my thoughts unless they really, really, really are open and receptive to it. So that would be my thought is wait, pick your right time. If and when there's a time in their life where they feel like things are moving in the right direction, perhaps that's an opening now to maybe speak about this.
I don't know if Hallie said it or Mariah. Somebody was saying something along the lines of people are a lot more receptive to compliments. So if you want to change somebody, right, give them some positive feedback versus negative feedback. We're usually not so receptive to negative feedback, and I think it works with employees, and not to be patronistic to employees, but it works with children. It works with people. I think it's one of those big things that it's just something that works across the board. Go ahead, Hallie.
So I want to share an example of this idea of self-discipline and self-compassion, self-acceptance, which acceptance is such a powerful word. And I see that in the comments about radical self-acceptance. If any of you have followed Marissa Peer, she is a world-renowned psychotherapist, and she talks about the I am enough. And I have really kind of grasped onto this concept recently because it is so very powerful. And so I've been teaching my clients, I am enough. And I put it on my mirrors and I have it as alarms on my phone. And I talk about this all the time because I truly feel that if you can stand in the power of I am enough in each moment, you will truly have self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-love. But recently I was talking to my 11-year-old daughter about this, and she has herself on a pretty determined schedule for learning some new gymnastics tricks. So we were sitting at the park, she was on the swing, and I was sharing with her about Marissa Peer and about I am enough. And she looked at me, and she was very thoughtful and she's very empathic and in tune. And she said to me, but Mom, if I am enough and I haven't yet completed or mastered my back bends and my handstands and the gymnastics tricks that I've, put myself on this kind of schedule over the school year, then how am I enough if I haven't done it yet as I'm still learning? And I love the question, number one. And number two, what I told her is you are enough in this moment as you are disciplined to conquer and master these tricks that are so important to you. And you are taking the self-discipline so that you can increase your flexibility and your agility and all of these things that you need to conquer these tricks. You are still enough. You are enough if whether or not you can do the handstand perfect or not. And when you accomplish that handstand, you're going to feel even more elated and excited about how you are showing up for you, because you have followed your discipline. You have used your skills of pushing yourself and motivating yourself, because you stand in the energy of I am enough every single day. And when you can be in that presence of I am enough, like I think it was Mariah who said, it motivates you to keep going and to be more disciplined in all the ways to really achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve for yourself. So I wanted to share that story.
I love that. And I think when we talk about self-compassion, right, that's what it is. It's saying, I'm enough. I'm having trouble. I've seen my daughter and son, we did quinceañera. And so my 13-year-old son, he's in that place where the choreography doesn't come as quickly to my daughter, who's doing TikToks all the time, right? And so giving yourself that permission that I'm not going to get this step as quick as maybe somebody else, but I can do it. I am enough. I love that. I love that message, because I think so many people that are trying to get through accounting because they know it's important, but it's difficult. It's challenging, right? Understanding that you can do it, you can get through it, and you just got to give yourself that grace and that compassion to allow yourself to get through it. I think that's so big. Heather, I know we haven't heard a lot of your voice. I don't know if it's because you're on a device and aren't in the chat, but is there anything you want to jump in on the importance of self-compassion, how the way you practice it, maybe some of these questions?
Yes, one of the greatest tools that I've learned is the I am statements. For a long time, I wasn't practicing that. And when I started to, it really was a game changer for me. It's shifted self-doubt and anxiety, things like that. It shifts that. And then you're able to focus on your values, your habits, your beliefs, and what you're really all about. And it takes the judgment away. And it also takes a lot of the self-pressure that we often feel away from us. So it really, truly can be a game changer. And I really love everything that Mariah and Hallie and Whitney talked about in that regard. It is a powerful tool, and it helps to alleviate any anxiety, depression that you may be feeling. And it really does help with your mental health.
Love that, Heather. So we got so many comments, so many great pieces. Byron checking in here saying, lucky girl, Hallie, thanks for sharing the story. Somebody was asking if Mama Spiro's last name was really light, Steve.
It really is. And that is and so my mom for many years, she's a therapist. She's got a master's in social work. And when she had back in the day when there was traditional answering machine messages, her message would end in wishing you peace and light for the day. And I guess that was something that stuck with me for many years. And but yeah, that is her maiden name. Her maiden name is Light. So which originally it was German and it was Licht. So but Licht got translated into Americanized, which is light. So very ironic, but maybe not so ironic.
Love it. Love it. We are the light, and Mama Spiro's the light. We're in it. All right. What positive changes in your life have occurred when you showed yourself more self-compassion? Who wants to jump into that? What positive changes in your life have occurred when you showed yourself more self-compassion? And I'd love to hear from our audience too. Let us know what positive changes in your life have occurred when you showed yourself more self-compassion.
So, Cameron, I don't like that awkward silence. Actually,
I see Heather's hand. Go ahead.
Heather raised her hand, so I'm gonna let you go. Ladies first, Heather. I just didn't like the awkward silence.
Oh, thank you, Steve. One of the greatest changes for me was just being able to give myself that space to embrace who I really am, instead of doing the comparison thing. Instead of, it was very easy, or it's easy for us often to extend kindness and extend grace and compassion to other people. But unless it's coming out of a place of feeling that towards your own self, it's kind of you're trying to give from an empty space. So the biggest change for me was the more I was able to sort of fill my own cup and allow that, then I was able to give more of those things to other people that I care about. So for me, that was a really important tool to sort of shift from feeling as though I had failed or getting focused on mistakes that I've made. And now I focus more on just cutting myself some slack and giving myself some grace. And that's really important because we're so good at giving that towards others.
Go ahead, Whitney.
Yeah, and something that has changed in my life related to practicing self-compassion is I think a lot of people have these big dreams and big goals, and it's sort of like the to-do list with 20 items on it that you start at the beginning of the day, and you just can't get to everything. It's too much. We live in this world that is stressful. It's overwhelming. We have so many different contradicting priorities. And one thing that I have found is that we are truly not the highest version of ourselves that we can imagine. We are not this amazing person that can do all 20 things on our list every single day. It's just not realistic. We have things that come up. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have relationships. And so what we are is we're the lowest version of ourselves that we can accept. What we need to do is, instead of saying, I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to try to have all of it, because it sets us up for disappointment. It sets us up for negative self-talk and not practicing self-compassion. But if you can set minimum standards to say, you know what, if I just get these 4 most important things done today, I'm going to be satisfied. That's going to be enough. If I just work out for 10 minutes today, I will be super happy, instead of saying, I really want to try to work out for an hour, but then you don't. So I know this is a little bit complex, but you are the lowest version of yourself that you can accept. You will accomplish the lowest standard that you will that you set for yourself. And when you do that and you check it off your list and you get it done, you feel good about yourself, you're motivated, and then you can keep going. But if you set yourself up for too much, then it can be very discouraging and just bring us down. And then we're not able to do the productive things that we need to do.
Whitney, I always find this too. When I set an easy goal, I'm more inclined to do it. And then I think as humans, if 10 sit-ups is too easy, we sort of, once we're already there, well, 10 was easy. Let me do 10 more. But if I put pressure on myself to do this whole big thing, then I just don't do it at all. Right. And so I think that, setting up those easy goals, those easy wins, I feel better about myself at the end of the day. I got something checked off. Right. And so it's in line with what we're talking about today. Be compassionate to yourself. Don't set up these crazy goals that are going to make you feel bad when you don't get them done. At the end of the day, it's one foot in front of the other, step by step. That's how everything has to get done. Otherwise, you can set these big things, and then if you're tackling them, you're, of course, going to burn out, right? I mean, I think that's, the opposite of self-compassion is burnout. I mean, we've seen it come up in the comments up over and over and over again. And then Stephen Hubbard is saying 10 sit-ups, I can barely do 9. Well, let's start with 1, Stephen, and see what you do. When you get down there, let's see if you get a second one out, right? I mean, I think that's the way it is. All right, who else wants to jump in? I know Steve was chomping at the bit. Anybody else want to jump in before Steve?
Can I just add? I just want to add a quick little thought, which is with that example that you gave with doing something, and I love how you shared that, Whitney. There is an awesome fitness guru influencer. She goes by the Betty Rocker. Her real name is Brie Argetzinger. You can find her on Instagram and YouTube and all the things. But in any event, she has a philosophy around this, and she calls it all or something. And I just like the notation of it, where if you say, I don't have to be all or nothing, but I can do all or something. So exactly your point, Cameron. Can I do the 10 sit-ups? Can I take a 15-minute walk? Can I make 5 more sales calls? Right? That's it. And then see how you're feeling after it. But you feel accomplished, you feel successful, and cheer yourself on. Right? That's the other piece of self-compassion is we have to celebrate our wins. Celebrate your wins every single day. The smallest of wins is worth celebrating. And the more you do that, and the more you get in the habit of doing it, the better you feel about yourself.
I love it. And we got some change, some twisting of the verbal dynamics, right? With these phrases that we've all grown up and they're a part of our lexicon, right? Last week we were talking about it's not winning or losing, but winning or learning, right? And that was up and fired up, Steve's Fired Up Friday. And today it's all or something, not all or nothing, all or something. I love it. We're reframing this language, which I think is a lot more healthy and a lot more compassionate to ourselves. Steve, go ahead. I know you want to jump in.
Yeah, that was great. A great point. I'm going to take that and I'm going to borrow it and I'll give you credit for one time and then I'll probably start using it for credit. But anyway, it's great. All or something. I love it. But yeah, I mean, so great book. Just to kind of promote a book because I love reading now. Now that I found Audible, because being learning disabled, reading was torturous for me. But a great book, Atomic Habits, and in that book it talks about how, you know, if you set these big lofty goals, you know, to go to the gym, you know, 5 days a week for 2 hours, you're going to probably do it for about a week and then you're going to fall off because it just becomes so overwhelming. Whereas if you could do, you know, maybe 30 minutes for 3 days a week, it's a lot more tangible and you'll be able to accomplish it. So, and you'll feel good about yourself when you be able to do it long term. So I love the points you guys are making. So I guess the question is, Cameron, refresh me. I got distracted on that one. What was the question that we wanted to go through here?
So we were talking about why is self-compassion so important and how you practice, or I'm sorry, what positive changes in your life have occurred when you showed yourself more self-compassion?
Well, I think for me, being able to do the show, is one example of that. I mean, I think what happened for me is as I became more comfortable with myself, I started to be able to do more networking. And because again, being shy, introverted, the last thing somebody in that world wants to be is around people. But I started to be more comfortable as I became self-compassionate and started to realize I was okay. I got around people. I started to do some networking, and that kind of led to, being able to do sort of these Zoom calls or back in the day before Zoom, before we moved into this new normal, coffee meetings. And that was a little bit uncomfortable, different for me, but allowed me to kind of be able to do that. And then eventually moving into doing videos, and that was completely a new world for me. And so that led to the show and being able to get on the show and be able to do broadcast and speak live and be able to not do a lot. I mean, Cameron, thanks to Cameron, he's coached me a lot. I've minimized the to a large degree. I still do it every now and then, but again, self-compassion, right? So when it did happen, I wasn't beating myself up about it. I was like, okay, you just learn from it, right? You're winning or you're learning, like we talked about, right? So these are just some things. I think financially, the last 2 years have been the best years I've had in, pretty much ever. I think that's a result of being, having self-compassion and what that has done for me and being more comfortable with myself. I think when you're more comfortable with yourself because you're self-compassionate, people see confidence. And when they see confidence, people are attracted to you. They want to do business with you. They want to be a part of what you're doing. They want to be part of your cause. So I believe all those things are a result for me in my life on self-compassion. So that's my answer.
I love that. I want to highlight, we got some great comments and bits coming in. For me, Leslie says, Leslie Martinez, for me, self-compassion means that I check in with myself frequently to see how I really feel. Tired, hungry, overwhelmed, etc. Then I make adjustments. I don't just grin and bear it anymore. I love that. And I wanted to really highlight Philip's comment. Philip Reed, we can't grow without self-compassion because failure is a part of growth. And I saw somebody else in the comments talking about, but how can we convey this to people that only win? And a lot of times I think conversations go to this, like, how do we change other people? And I think one of the most important things that you'll take away from this program in general, I think, Steve, is that you can't really change other people. There's only one person in your life that you have a real good chance of changing, and that is the person that's looking back at you when you look in the mirror. That is the person that you're going to be a change, and that's certainly what we focus on in the show. And certainly we're trying to be more emotionally intelligent so that we can understand other people better. and so that we know how to change ourselves to best adapt and fit into other people's lives in a way that brings us positive results. But again, it always comes back to this person that you are and how are you going to improve yourself so that you can better manipulate and work with the world around you, right? As we get into the top of the hour here, and everybody, thank you so much for these amazing comments that you're leaving with us here. I want to jump into sort of our closing statements here, give everybody of our guests a chance to close this thing out here. And when you go, please let people know where they can follow up with you and reach you. But the thing I'd like you to, maybe there's something else you want to highlight and bring to our audience that's really important, but what can we do to show more self-compassion? All right. So if each of us can sort of leave off on that. And Steve, did we get to Steve? I think you wanted a chance to answer the question about companies having promoted self-care more. So let's jump into that, and then we'll go over to Hallie, and then Heather, and then Mariah, and then Whitney, and give everybody a chance to leave our audience with something that will help them show more self-compassion. Questions for the viewers too, as Steve is going, are you more self-critical or do you let yourself off the hook? Right? And do you have a critical playback loop in your head? We want to hear that from you while you're hearing some of this stuff, as you're thinking about this stuff. Do some self-reflection. Again, changing this person in the mirror. Are you more self-critical or do you let yourself off the hook? Do you have a critical playback loop in your head? Are you not being self-compassionate with yourself? We want to hear from you. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, and maybe we could post those questions so that they.
I will.
Yeah, perfect. But I don't remember if it was Braden or Philip who answered that question about our companies sort of promoting self-care based upon what's happened in the last 19 months. I forget who answered the question. Who asked the question, which apologize for not remembering who it was. But I can tell you this, that the company that I'm with, Quadient, they have been very compassionate and have allowed a lot of self-care, and they encourage, taking walks and getting away from the computer, and they encourage they do like electronic water cooler meetings. They encourage during work hours where people can actually just get together, no management, and just talk. Kind of like trying to replicate the office environment. So I could see from the company that I'm affiliated with that there's some of that, but I can't speak for all companies, but I get the feeling the smart companies, the progressive companies are starting to, and they've understood that they do need to do something, because otherwise you're going to get burnout. And we know that there's a lot of openings and more openings than there are employees. So getting people to work, come back to work is hard. So the last thing you want to do is lose people. So I believe that companies are being much more attuned to that, and they're looking to help people on the self-care side of things.
Love it. So our closing question here, as we're going around the room, Heather, what can we do to show more self-compassion, and let everybody know where they can find you?
I think it's really important to just begin wherever you are in this moment. Not worry about the past, not worry about the future, but just worry about what's going on with you right now, and allow yourself that space and that grace to really heal with your life, and to really be able to practice more kindness towards yourself. And that's going to go a long way to how you handle yourself moving forward and how you engage with others.
Right, and where can people find you, Heather?
The best place that you can find me right now is just on LinkedIn. You can send me a direct message or reach me through InMail. That would be great.
All right. And as always, everybody, if you're looking for our speakers' information, if you're on LinkedIn, right there to the chat, just expand that. You'll see their links. So make sure you're connecting with folks. People are coming on this show to connect with you. Don't be shy. Reach out, connect. Let them know you saw them on the show. Great place to start a conversation and start that connection. So go ahead and do that. If you're on YouTube, it's down below. Please connect with our speakers. Go ahead, Hallie.
So the question Remind me the question. It was
So,
what
sure.
are our final
What can we
thoughts on
do to show
self-compassion?
more self-compassion? And if there's anything you just want to leave people with, please.
Yeah. What I want to leave people with is the concept of self-awareness. I believe that the more that we can become self-aware, the more that we can practice self-compassion. It is so important to be mindful of what our needs are and who we are and what we desire. So one quick check that goes along with Linda's comment earlier was something that I do every day is I do a quick check with myself: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Spiritual may or may not resonate with the audience, so that's fine, but at least mental, emotional, and physical. And if you can just have that one check-in with yourself, I write these words down in my journal, but taking the time to get into a space of self-awareness gets you comfortable understanding who you are, what you want, and what your purpose is. And I believe that the more self-aware that you can become, the more self-compassionate you can become in how you show up for yourself every single day. So that will be my parting words. I would absolutely love to connect with anybody who is so interested. Please follow me here on LinkedIn. If you do, make sure to send me a message so that I know that you saw me here on the show. And I would also love to give a plug for my TikTok. I saw people commenting about TikTok in the chat. I love TikTok. I have a ton of videos up that have been really, really powerful, and the audience there and the community is just phenomenal. And my handle there is @SassyHealthyFit, all one word. If you're looking for any sort of coaching or group experience, help with self-love or manifestation, that is what I'm here for. And I would be honored to connect with you and get to know you better. So thank you.
I love that. And say the TikTok handle one more time for everybody.
Yeah, it's my business name @SassyHealthyFit, all
Beautiful.
one word.
I'll make sure to connect with you over there.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to.
All right. And then we're going over to Mariah. Go ahead, Mariah.
Well, thank you very much, Cameron, and thank you, Steve, for having me on, and the panelists have been great here. So I just want to leave with the thought that self-compassion and self-care, self-love is a process. And do not think that you can start it today and be competent tomorrow, because it is like a bath or a shower. If you stop doing it, it doesn't work anymore. So it's something that we continually do. Practice self-compassion and know that you are more than enough. Thank you for having me.
I love that. And where can folks find you, Mariah?
And I am also on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Yep. Links are there for you folks to check in with you and connect with you. Whitney.
So the question, how can we practice self-compassion? I have an acronym that I use, and I teach this to my clients and I use it myself, but it's KACH, catch. So when you find yourself going down that downward spiral, giving yourself negative self-talk, being overly judgmental and critical, I want you to catch yourself and practice K, kindness, A, awareness, and the CH is common humanity. And I go into a lot more detail on this in a self-compassion guide that I created that you can download for free on whitneykobran.com. So it's up right now.
Say the words in the acronym one more time for folks.
Catch, KACH, kindness, awareness, common humanity. So it's about first being aware. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? What is the situation? And then practicing kindness. You'll get through this. You're smart enough. You're enough. It's okay. And then the common humanity piece is either reaching out for help and support or just recognizing that you're only human. You make mistakes. So does everyone else. And it really does work. It's worked for me. It's worked for other clients. It's really helped to turn a lot of negativity into positive motivation and just feeling better and being more capable and able to do more. And again, that's available right now. It's probably only going to be available for a limited time because I change my website up often, but at whitneykobran.com, you can download that free guide. And it also includes a quiz. So you can measure yourself and find out how compassionate are you to other people and how compassionate are you to yourself? Because if you're like most people I've worked with, you're a lot more compassionate to other people than you are with yourself. And that is definitely something to look into and to work on changing in yourself.
Love it. All right. And the website is on the screen, whitneykobran.com. Thank you, everybody. Stephen, take us out of here. We're going to do some crush it action. I know you got some closing words. Thanks everybody in our audience for hanging on. Thanks for all the beautiful comments. Love checking in with everybody. Got Stephanie checking in here at the end here. I know Chris Dutra is checking in from our Chris team. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, listen, I know Val had said he was hard on himself, and I kind of just threw it in the comment. Listen, we're all work in progress, and so my closing comments is just give yourself a break. Don't let yourself off the hook per se, right? But give yourself a break. Understand that, tomorrow's a new day. If the day didn't go so well, things didn't work out, you can make it better tomorrow. And just as long as you're moving forward, you're not, just, becoming lazy about it. You'll be okay. Everything is going to be okay. That's what I learned in that meditation experience that I had, which was pretty awesome. So anyway, I appreciate everybody. And, listen, we are in a unprecedented times, right? I mean, we see the variant coming back. I had COVID. It exists. So please, for those who I'm speaking to for the first time, if you're a little cavalier about it, and I was, please be aware. It could be really, really rough. It was rough for me and my wife and a few people I know personally. Take it serious. I'm not saying, vaccinate, not vaccinate, but can't say I always have my mask on. Be smart, take it serious, be careful. But in the meantime, we can still be the light. We can inspire people. We could be that example. And then we talked about it earlier that, hey, you can't push things on people, but you could be the best example. You could be the best version of you. And through your example, you could be the light. So let's continue to be the light and to continue to inspire. You guys are awesome. Appreciate the love and the shout outs from everybody. You ladies did tremendous. And so we're going to take it out here and let people crush the rest of the week. So I'm going to count to 5 and then we're all going to shout out crush it. So ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it! Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Next week, we have an amazing show for everybody. We are going to be doing our show on It's All About Who You Know. Our panelists, Teddy Burris, Michelle Griffin, and Trevor Houston. Trevor Houston, by the way, does a great show. If you haven't checked out his shows, definitely check them out. Have an amazing week. We will see you next week. Thanks so much for being a part of this audience. You make this what it is. Thanks for checking in. Our expert panelists, thank you so much for giving us some compassion today. I think everybody's lives is better for it. Thank you. LinkedIn, we are going to fire up your Monday.
With Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.